So I don't usually dream about Scottsdale, but I've got to admit, there's a definite pull from this place. When we were trying to figure out where to live after we decided to move to Arizona, Scottsdale seemed like the unattainable dream. I mean, from all the great places to eat, the endless entertainment choices, the swanky resorts, and the high-end shopping that Scottsdale is famous for, we just figured that you had to be a millionaire to live there. But what if I told you that much of what we discovered about Scottsdale is actually a lie? Once we finally moved here and got a closer view, we found that there's a whole different side to this place that many people don't see, and most people don't talk about. So in this video, we'll be going over the 5 crucial things that you must know about Phoenix's most popular suburb. So the first thing we need to establish is, why is Scottsdale so popular in the first place? And the thing that will come to mind for most is the idea of it being a luxury community. One thing I see all the time is this image of Scottsdale being painted where it's kind of like Arizona's version of Beverly Hills. You'll see photos of these mansions that overlook the city with lavish pools and some of the most incredible houses you'll ever see. But there's just one problem with that. The vast majority of those homes aren't actually in Scottsdale. Now don't get me wrong, there are a lot of stunning homes in Scottsdale, so if you're looking for that jaw-dropping place, you can certainly find it. But the reason that so many people love this place is because of what it offers when it comes to those things that I mentioned earlier. Some of the best restaurants in all of Arizona, enough stores to keep even the most avid shopaholic busy for weeks, and entertainment options around every corner. The area that embodies that most is Old Town and Fashion Square in the downtown core. This is where most people hang out in Scottsdale. So you'd think that those incredible homes are nearby so that the owners can enjoy all the great amenities the city has to offer. However, if you head just a few blocks away from downtown, these are the kinds of homes that you'll actually find. And this is the first thing that you need to know about Scottsdale. It's one of the original Phoenix suburbs, and much of this place is actually pretty old. Many of the homes in southern Scottsdale were built out in the 50s and 60s. Some of those have been renovated, but there are a lot that still need quite a bit of work. But what about all those mansions on the hill overlooking the city? Those homes are what most people envision when they think of Scottsdale. So if they're not part of the city, then where are they? Well, that would be Paradise Valley, which is right next door to Scottsdale, and it is by far the most expensive zip code in Arizona. In 2023, the average home sold for just under $3 million. By comparison, the average sales price over in Scottsdale, just around $805,000. Now, of course, there are some homes in Scottsdale that will rival those in Paradise Valley, and there's even some new construction communities being developed. So you can find much more modern homes if that's really what you prefer. But these houses come with a serious drawback. You see, Scottsdale, it covers a massive area, and these bigger homes and newer communities are predominantly in the far north part of town. And much of this area is still undeveloped. That may not seem like a huge deal, but if you want to be around the corner from those great entertainment options in Old Town and Fashion Square, you'll be looking at about a 45-minute drive to get there. Even Carolyn Commons, which is another upscale shopping center in the northern part of town, is still a 30-minute drive. So what if you want to be a lot closer and you don't need to have a huge fancy home? In fact, maybe a condo would be a better fit. You can get a great place at a really reasonable price and not have to do any maintenance. They can be a great fit, but there is a major pitfall that you need to look out for if you're browsing these properties, and it's something that almost everybody misses. I've had a lot of clients looking to buy places in Scottsdale who have come across many of these condos near downtown, and the prices, they seem almost too good to be true. Well, unfortunately, there is a major catch, and we can look at another popular housing option to explain this. So an Arizona staple is our snowbird community. Tons of retirees who are tired of freezing to death in the wintertime head south around November and bask in the warmth of our winters before heading home right before the heat gets cranked up in the summer. And since they're only here for part of the year, many of them want to keep their housing costs as low as possible. An easy way to do that is to purchase a mobile home in a park. Some of these places can even be scooped up for as little as $50,000, and the reason that they're so cheap is because you're only purchasing the mobile home, not the land underneath it. You then pay a monthly space rent fee to the park since you don't own the property. And that's the other thing that you absolutely must know about Scottsdale. There are a lot of areas that are built on leased land. When you see those cheap condos, you'll want to be extra careful and make sure that you're checking for this. If it is on leased land, just know that there will be a monthly lease payment in addition to the fees that you'll already be paying the HOA, which are often $400 a month or more since they're going to be doing all of the maintenance work. But that's not even the biggest issue with a land lease. If you're thinking about purchasing one of these properties, you'll want to find out where it sits in the current term of the lease, because if it's near the end, you could be facing some huge problems. Number one is that the lease could be renewed at a much higher rate, which has the potential to significantly increase your monthly mortgage payment. The bigger problem is number two, and that's that you could actually lose all interest in your home. Most of these leases have language that states the improvements on the land revert to the lessor upon termination of the lease. So if the landowner decides that they want to turn that condo building into a shopping center after the current lease is up, they can do it without paying anything to the people who actually own the condos. So the solution is easy, right? Just don't buy a condo. Well, in Scottsdale, it's not quite that simple, because there are even some single-family residences that are built on leased land, and the same rules apply. So you'll want to pay very careful attention to those details when you're looking at homes here. Now, if you find a home that's not on leased land and it's even been updated and looks gorgeous, you'll want to look out for something else. Like most areas of the Phoenix Metro, Scottsdale has a ton of neighborhoods with HOAs. But the farther south you go, you'll start to find that those HOAs become more and more rare. Now, you might be one of those people who says,
"That's great, I don't want an HOA."
And yes, they can be a pain, but an HOA can also save you from a potential nightmare, and this is item number 3. Now, you're probably thinking about the aesthetic aspect of the HOA. It'll keep your neighbor from painting his house purple with pink polka dots or turning the front yard into a local garbage dump, but in a place like Scottsdale, the HOA can provide something much more valuable when it comes to enjoying your home. Imagine what it would be like if you bought a home in a great neighborhood and you finally found a place without that pesky HOA telling you what to do all the time. But then a few months later, your neighbor decides to sell their home, and the person who purchases it decides to make it an investment property. Not a bad thing on the surface, almost every neighborhood has rentals, but in a tourist haven like Scottsdale, a lot of the investment properties become these kinds of rentals.
When it's time to party, we will party hard. Let's get a party going, let's get a party going. When it's time to party, we will always party hard, party hard.
With no HOA, there's almost nothing you can do about the party house next door. And there are even some HOAs that allow short-term rentals, so you'll want to make sure that you check the CC&Rs to find out all those details ahead of time. Now, so far we've covered all the important things to pay attention to when looking at properties in Scottsdale. But there's something else that you should consider that has nothing to do with the actual homes, but it can really affect whether or not you'd actually enjoy living here. So the reason Scottsdale is so popular in the first place is that people have often been here on vacation. And after playing some rounds of golf or getting treated at the spa, it's hard not to think about that when you get home and then decide, hey, I want to move to Scottsdale. But then when you actually get here, you're not staying at a resort, and you're not playing golf all the time, and you're not getting massage every day, and you're certainly not eating out for every meal. What you are doing is getting up, going to work, getting home, watching TV, maybe going to the gym, going to bed, and repeat. And that's the thing that can eventually ruin Scottsdale for some people. It's that transition from viewing it through the lens of someone on vacation to someone who actually lives here. Everywhere seems better when you're on vacation because you're getting away from it all. But when you move somewhere, you're bringing all of those things with you, and the place doesn't always look the same when you add those elements in. So you should make sure that you're spending some time thinking about a few different communities around the valley. And if you're not familiar with the local market, I'd be happy to point you in the right direction. You can schedule a free consultation with me by scanning the QR code in the corner of your screen or using the link in the description below. But taking the extra time to do this bit of research is important to make sure that you find the exact fit for your own needs instead of always just dreaming about Scottsdale. Now, the final thing you need to know about is probably the thing I get asked about most often, and that is the water supply. You probably even remember seeing these headlines where Scottsdale and the nearby community of Rio Verde were in a heated dispute over the water. But there's something truly unbelievable that I discovered when looking into the water situation, and you should watch this video right here where I'll share what that discovery is and how it affects the future of not just Scottsdale, but all of Arizona.